What happens when high school students who've spent 7 months learning ways in which to advocate for arts education in New Jersey take the mic to share what they've discovered? Welcome to Art Isn't a Limit, an Arts Ed NJ Youth Ambassador podcast, an all-youth-led show where we explore how the arts transform lives, communities, and possibilities. Born from our Arts Ed NJ Youth Arts Education Council experience, this podcast amplifies the voices of young advocates who understand firsthand why creative expression matters. Hi, my name is Maithili, and I'm a part of the Youth Arts Ed Council Ambassador Program. Welcome to Art Isn't a Limit, an Arts Ed NJ podcast. On this episode, I will be interviewing Kristin DeAngelis, Senior Director of Strategy and Operations at Mana Contemporary, on how exposure to professional art environments and careers can transform educational outcomes, particularly for students with limited access to the fine arts world. We'll examine how programs like Future Art Leaders break down barriers by introducing students to the business of art from gallery operations to artist studios, creating pathways to professional artistic careers. Welcome to the podcast, Kristin.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
Thank you so much for being a part of this. Let's dive right in. All right, so first we want to know, how do you suggest organizations in fine arts can go about making the world of fine arts, which is often only accessible through money or connections, accessible to students?
That question has so many layers to it, and I've actually been may have practiced this about 50 times this morning before 9 a.m. on the best way to answer that, because there are so many levels. So I'll say a few things, but then I'll get to the crux of the answer. Institutions are often, not always, often, not for profit. So that means two things. They have a board that sort of runs the programming, the institution, and they have to vote on a lot of things. But the number one thing that the board does is bring in money for the institutions to keep the doors open, the programs running. So I say this because you know how difficult it can be if you're trying to plan something on a Saturday night with your friends. So you're sitting there and saying, I think we should see this movie. I've seen this movie from another director, and my experience is that it will really impact how we see things, our life. I really think we should go see this. And then you might even encourage them by saying, I'll even pay for your ticket. So you're coming with this passion, this experience, and this finance. That's what it's kind of like, very broadly, very top line from an institutional perspective. So there's a lot of things that would need and are in process 100% to start to change some of these things. And we know the world we're living in, where funding is being cut, and that can be a whole nother podcast. Both of these things can be a whole nother podcast. But I say all these things because what's really, really important is you can't control everything, but you can control yourself and make a difference yourself. And I say this also because I didn't come from the art world. I went to school for art and marketing. My first job out of school was at a bank. And I just progressed. I knew I didn't want to do graphic design, so I kind of pivoted away from that. And really, sales and marketing were my wheelhouse. It was because of an opportunity that I was given from a connection from a friend, to volunteer in a gallery that was in Jersey City. And from that volunteer, I met more people. And then from saving money, we were able to purchase real estate and then opened up a gallery. And so for the longest time, I actually worked 60 hours a week, flew all over the country, and then was running my gallery, which included an exhibitions I'm sighing because it was like so exhausting. I look back on the time frame of running exhibitions, teaching children art advocacy. I'm not kidding that I did not have any idea what I was really doing. I just was so passionate. I was known for it in my corporate job of like being a little bit of a pit bull, where if I believed in something, I was going for it. I would break through the wall. I would climb over the wall. Like, I was not stopping until I accomplished the goal that I set out. So I very much approached this in the same way. and just trying to get all the experience. I was able to, once I separated from my organization and actually was given it was a separation package, and it was very mutually beneficial to to, well, mostly to me, but I was able to say yes to everything. So 18 months, it was yes, it was yes, it was yes. It didn't matter how much I had to be in three places at once, how exhausted I was. So I was not 25 when I did this. So it was much further in my lifetime and career, and it was just a complete shift and change. But there was nothing stopping me from needing to do what I wanted to do, and that was really to give a voice to artists. I wanted to be the person. When you thought of Jersey City, I wanted to be in the top three names of people in the art world in Jersey City that you thought of. I actually had the two names where I was like, they can be ahead of me, but I need to be number three in this. And that was really because I wanted to be able to give a voice. Not so much I cared about you knowing me, but that I was giving the voice to artists. And you have to have this experience. So once you have this experience and you start saying yes, you meet the people that you need to because of your passion and your drive and your experience. And then you become to build this voice that people want to hear. And people, to go back to two very famous quotes that I think are perfect in answering this question as well, is Mahatma Gandhi is attributed to being the change that you want to see. So very much staying on point. This is what I wanted to see. I wanted to build this gallery that was allowing artists of all ages and experiences and talent to be seen by the community. And how was I going to do that? Well, I was going to show up for everything, meet everyone that I could. So whether it was the mayor of Jersey City who came to my gallery, it was joining different organizations, even if it meant paying some money, or join different organizations to be able to get to behind the scenes of galleries. I took a lot of classes at professional development at NYU, which really, I mean, I was able to meet so many people that I still stay in touch with. And it's really by that, and I'll go back to the famous quote by Shirley Chisholm, like, if they don't give you a seat at the table, you bring a folding chair. I carried around that folding chair. I carried it around, like, when I didn't think of it at the time, but I carried that around because I knew what I wanted. And I think that that's where we are right now for everyone. And Maithili, you're doing that. You're carrying that chair. You're taking everything that you have done, because I've seen only little instances, just being a part, being applying to the Future Art Leaders program at Mana Contemporary. You're taking control of something, and that, I think that's what's so important, because the more that you decide to take control of your narrative and what you want to say and what you feel is important, and you're going to start having a voice, which is the crux of future art leaders. Like, great, you can talk about Dan Flavin. I think that's awesome, but it's really about having your voice and whatever it is that you want to say. You're going to have that voice, then that gives you the ability to be the change you want to see and get that seat at the table. So then when you're at the seat at the table of all of these, and I have no doubt that you will be there, that you're the voice sitting at that table in these art institutions and saying, like, these are the changes we need to see. So they're there. It's slow. It's a tough process again, it's a tough process trying to make everybody understand, like, this is the movie you should be seeing in the movie theater right now. This is life. You will build that voice to make sure that every single thing you do is about the message that you're trying to create across the board, and breaking into these institutions. You may start locally, but you'll keep building and keep building. And then your name will be like, well, I want to know what this person has to say. I want them to sit at the table here and discuss where this nonprofit should go and how this art institution should run. I'm here at Mana Contemporary because I literally showed up to the point of exhaustion where our director, Kelly McCumsey, said, "Why do I see you everywhere?" Which I always teased him back and say, "Why do you live in Brooklyn? I live here. Why do I see you everywhere?" But in that moment, I I was seen. Like I was the person. And he said, I really, let's work on a project together, which was the Future Art Leaders. And then the second I walked in the door to get my schedule, he said, I know in 2 months I'm going to want you to work here full time. Do you want a full time job? And I nearly cried because this is what I was working for so long. To have this full time job, to be able to not work for free anymore, to be able to sustain myself and then be able to give voices to artists in an organization that had way more visibility that I could give them ever. And even um but it's because of showing up and meeting people and doing everything that I did. And I feel that you're doing that, and I know other people are doing that. Other students, other um, we'll just say younger generation. I mean, every day you're learning something new that you can apply to making a difference. There's not a moment in time that I don't think of about something in Mannequin Contemporary of how can I make a difference. Even last night we had artist Danielle Scott, who's from Jersey City. She has a documentary that was created about her called Ancestral Call. It is so beautiful. I cried when I saw it, and being able to help her, give her the platform here. We showed her documentary twice, and it was nominated for an NAACP Image Award, and then actually got like an Oscar nomination for a documentary. So I'm so proud of her. It's amazing that these directors did that, but that's the kind of thing that I want to be doing. But we're talking about, like, I had to change my whole career, and it was 10 plus years of work. And so that's what it's a long, long answer, but I really feel it comes from, again, doing the work, being a part of anything. It's your voice that's so important, and to help these institutions understand that they need to start making changes, and they need to make things more accessible, and they need to do this quickly, and you're the person that can do it. And I just really feel very, very strongly in that. It's the passion, the energy, the effort, and the showing up that will make a difference.
Thank you so much, Kristen, for that answer. Definitely, it shows when people like you, who are very passionate about bringing others into the world of arts and really like spreading their knowledge, spreading their passion, are actually genuinely caring. It shows, and it's definitely very, like, from my perspective as a student who's trying to break into the world, it's so, I guess, heartwarming, and it's so nice to know that there is someone that cares. There are people in like all of these organizations that do care, that do want to bring change and want to bring in other
Absolutely.
perspectives and other voices. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. There are a lot of us out there, I swear. I
Yes.
swear.
Okay, so on to the next question. What impact has the program had on students, and what have past students of the program gone on to do? Have they pursued art as a professional career?
Absolutely. In the Future Art Leaders program, you're building different relationships. So I've seen friendships blossom between different students, because not all the students go. Jersey City's so large and has many high schools, so they get to know one another. They get to see, even from whether it's an artistic process or a what do they want to do? How do they want to continue? How do they want to go further in their artistic journeys? So I love seeing that. I know some of the students have gone on, whether it is to support artists here. I see a few people from the program walk through, and they're working with artists. I always try to connect them. Artists will reach out and say, "Do you know any of the students that come through? Can you connect me to them? I'd love to have an assistant. I'd love to see if they could work on a project for me." So some of them do get employed by the various artists. There's 220 art and art institutions and foundations here. So I definitely know some of the future art leaders that are here. Sometimes they come back to me and they ask for references, referrals. I try to provide them that, as I have with you, Maithili. I'm just, whether it is a program within, I'm sorry, I know my bracelets are a little loud. but I like to talk with passion and energy and hand movements apparently. So, so definitely people who come back. I've written many a recommendation. Some have actually been successful in moving forward in different programs. Some who have gone on to universities will come back and work our open studios. I'm very open to that. And I have a couple of them that come back. They're here going to school, so it can work within their time frames. But there's always a chance that they can come here and work and continue to be. I'm happy to mentor them or put them together with someone else to be mentored. And then I know that they also mentor other students. So it's just really a nice thing to see. Again, going back, very heartwarming. I believe in giving back, and I believe that this is just any sort of mentorship. I mean, I was mentored too, whether it was in my corporate job or here, and I always look for that, even if someone doesn't really know that they're doing it. I take everything I can from people and then give it back to others.
Yes, and I definitely think that as you're saying about like the students kind of mentoring each other, I think that with my experience in the Future Art Leaders program, I could see that like being around other like-minded creative people was definitely influencing me, and I was starting to think more and more about like, really doing art as like a professional career. And so I think that's probably true for a lot of the other students as well.
And I also want to say, just even again from my experience, what others are bringing, you have to be open to all these things. So sometimes people think that like, I don't want to say like I've made it, I work at Mana, but in that, like, my journey is still moving forward from my professional state of mind to also my artistic. So I had put aside my own artistic practice for a really long time, but the artists here every day inspire me, and the students that come through in this Future Art Leaders program, I'm always blown away by how incredibly talented, because I know what kind of passion, energy, and effort you have to put things aside. And I really feel that as much as all of us are trying to mentor the future art leaders that come in, you're also giving back to us. And I think that's what's really important. You all may not realize it, but that is definitely happening too. So it's a beautiful environment.
Yes, 100%. So the next question is, what are some standout activities the docents have participated in? For an example, I was thinking about how like we saw like how the storage and cataloging system for the 9/11 museum works. So are there any other similar standout activities that you can think of that the docents have really enjoyed?
From the feedback that they have given me over the past few years, the 9/11 Memorial Museum is one of them. And it's always extremely interesting to me because most of these students were not alive during this time. And it was such a incredible, I don't want to say pivotal. I'm searching for a word, but it impacted me greatly. I was working in New York City at the time, so I have a personal feeling. So I always watch that interaction with incredible interest and sensitivity. So that is always, the students always walk away really in a thoughtfulness, I feel, which is important in your art career. But I would have to say that the students really, really love the hands-on workshop. I feel like, so I always try to introduce, the first class is always like the business of art, because that's so complicated and a lot. And in that warm-up of where does your comfortability? And it is really like, the students want to make art. So let's make art. Let's talk about that. And let's make the art, and then like talk a little bit about the business of art and setting that stage. So I do feel like that first class is very exciting because it gets to combine both the things of what they love to do. And that first project is usually really so fascinating. Again, I love all of these, like I always like these little social studies of works and how to make things better and how to move forward in the program. So every time it's a little different. But I do think that the students mostly really talk about their interactions with the artist, especially if it's a hands-on project. Um, the standout one for me was in the fall of this past season with Nick Darnalis, who is an artist here at Mana Contemporary. He worked for a silk screener here, and then they moved, and so I know he was trying to figure out kind of like what was his next step. And we talked quite a lot, and then he started working in this beautiful, incredible, intimate to his life experience, um, project series, and he started teaching. So he is an art educator, and so he worked with our future art leaders. It was a small group, which really brought this like intimate setting and really one-on-one in a printmaking sort. And it was really about everyday life, and it was so beautiful and quiet, and really him interacting with the students, you could just see that they were soaking all of this in. I always try to make sure that the interaction with the artists was something that they don't get in the school. So we've done some 3D printing. We've working with various materials. But I really feel like the students last semester really, it was just just a really, really treasured moment for me, and I really thought they enjoyed it. And this spring, the students created, and I wish I could show you, but I just brought the piece for. I know we're not on video, but the piece to be framed so it could stay intact. They worked with Lisa Lackey, an artist here, using various materials, and it was just a group project, and she was overseeing it, and they were all involved, from the sewing machine to the cutting of the materials and laying it down. And it was just really, again, using things they don't get to use, sewing machines, and they all walked away like, wow, that was so cool. And I hope that these things also, on top of the learning about yourself, public speaking, but also being experiencing different materials that they may not, to then go into another practice, their artistic practice. So I definitely feel it's that interaction with the artists that they really enjoy the most.
Yeah, and I definitely will agree on that because I know that like all the interactive kind of activities we did are the ones that I remember the most. You were talking about like the first class where you kind of teach about art business and like we would draw something and then like price it and try to sell it. That definitely like stuck with me a lot. And even when it's like we're just watching the artists create art, even like when it's not interactive, but we get to like see the process and like see how they kind of go through their own like the steps of thinking and everything. Even that is like amazing because you really get to see how like a professional artist thinks and like all the different kind of techniques that they use.
Absolutely.
The next question is, what is the impact that the teen docents have had on artists at Mana?
I will say that greater than you can imagine. I often have the students write thank you notes because that's the world I come from, like a handwritten thank you note. And I've had artists come to me with literal tears in their eyes, being like, I was so moved by this because, quite frankly, you know, or I'll come from my experience. When I was younger, adults are you think adults like have it all figured out. I always use the example that first time I went snowboarding. Again, I don't know, maybe it was 25, 20, no, I was almost 30. First time snowboarding. Like I only skied one other time, hated it, but went snowboarding. And these 4-year-olds are like zip, 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 zip through me on their skis. And I was like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. Like I was so afraid. I didn't know how to stop. I barely knew what I was doing. They were like little professional skiers going down. And I was like, they have no idea that I don't know how to stop. It's not prohibiting them. They just presume all of this. And that's where I think when you're younger, you just presume adults have it all figured out. And that's not true. And, so and neither do artists. Like they, as adults, they're constantly, I'm not saying that an accountant isn't trying to figure themselves out, but in an artist, it's just completely different. They question every single thing about their life, everything about what they're doing professionally, personally. That's just how they're built. So I don't ever think that the students realize the impact that they're having on the artist because of your presence, of your questions, of your just taking it all in. But they've literally come back to me with tears in their eyes, being like, this may be the best thing I've ever done in I don't know how many years, of just getting that and receiving that feedback. Like I'm thinking of one person in particular that we went to see, and she was almost speechless. Like she was like, I will forever hold these cards close to my heart. And I'm like, yeah. And anytime you ever think that you're not heading in the right direction, just remember who life you have impacted. It could be only these 6 cards you're holding, you know? But that's everything. I mean, I've had artists, I was even just mentioning it, the other day, walking by a certain artist, and I was saying, he is balancing a job where he's doing something for a very large company. He travels all the time, but he wrote to me about a year and a half ago and said, please, if there's any time that I could sit with the students and tell them about my journey, because it's unusual, and what I'm doing now, because it's the way things are going to be going. He's like, I just want to have that chance. I would appreciate it. I want to give back. So for a year, we tried to schedule it, and it was even at one point, it was like, oh no, I have to travel. I was like, okay, we'll shift this, we'll shift that, we'll move it around. And we did it, and it was incredible. And these students wouldn't have had this chance. I'll show you. It was a piece of, they did something 3D, and you can't see it for my honest, but their hands, all the hands together. Like it was all of us, and he created the 3D. And I think this says so much about, like, again, going back to your first question, of all of these hands together are going to make this difference and are going to be the voice. We need to stand together in so many different things. And I appreciate all the artists and mentors, but I really appreciated this in the fact of, like, he really pursued this. It was really important to him. It really made a difference. And I'm so grateful for that. And that it really, I do think, the students loved it. They were like, what is this? But I really think it meant a lot to him. And, going forward, so never, I mean, and underestimate any sort of touch point, whether it is with another student, a mentor, a person, how someone can impact you, because you are making a difference every time you talk to somebody.
Yeah, and it's actually like, as a student, it's so amazing to know that the artists are like just as impacted as we are by them, because
Oh
I
my
just would
gosh.
never expect that. Like, as you were
Yes,
saying, like,
yes.
you think that they have it all figured out, but like it's really amazing to know that they also like actually are impacted and actually are like inspired.
Yeah, 100%. And for me, when I taught students in my gallery, I brought that back to my practice. So no matter how tired or something, there was always something. I taught Friday afternoons and Saturday mornings in my gallery, and I taught other places, but I in the age range, it was about 6 years old to about 12. And I was very general, because I thought at a certain age, like, if you really wanted to go on, let me put you in touch with an artist who can give you that one-on-one and really push you forward in what you want to do, whether it's drawing, painting, etc. So we would have all of these conversations, and I will never, ever forget that this one of the youngest students, I will say, she was there with her sister. So let's set her at the age 7. She had this color gray blue in her mind that she could not get out. And so at first it was a dialect, and we only use watercolor. So that's kind of challenging to start with. So it went from her and I talking within 5 minutes, the whole class was trying to work together to try to get the color out of her mind onto the paper. And so we're going about, I mean, this sits with me because, again, in all the things, it takes a village sometimes to get what is in your head out to, whether it's the paper, to the textile, to the 3D. It takes everybody, and you have no idea, like, these things impacted me so greatly. Of like, we when we finally got to the end, it was really funny. We were almost chanting, like, what about this, what about that, and getting down to the crux of, finally she was like, that's it. And we were all like, yes, and we were cheering, and it was just such a beautiful, beautiful moment of all of us coming together. I mean, I don't even know if she would remember that, or her sisters, but I remember it sits with me because it impacted me, whether it was, I don't know if it was anything I said, or if it was all of a sudden she was like, okay, that's fine, I don't want to have this conversation anymore, or if it really was the color. But it was just such a great moment of coming together. Like, you just don't realize how one another impacts, or, again, going back to whether you think the artists have it all together, they're just looking for that gray blue. They're just looking for that gray blue, honestly. So
Yeah, like collaborative art and like working on things together really does reveal so much, and it's so much fun to do as well. So for our almost last question, is there anything else that you want to share specifically that we didn't touch on in any of these previous questions?
no, I'm just so honored to be a part of this. As I was mentioning, this is my first podcast. I feel like I've talked a lot, I've said a lot, and it's really based on my experience. I'm so grateful to be in the position where I am, to be able to share the knowledge that I have, the experience I have, and it's just been a joy. I mean, it really, really has, and so I'm just so grateful. People are more than welcome to reach out to me if they have any other questions. Um, I can say that you can reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm Kristin DeAngelis on LinkedIn. If you want to follow Mana Contemporary on Instagram, you can do so by following at Mana Contemporary to see. I'm also the social media. I do many, many, many things at Mana Contemporary. So I do the social media. So I see everything that gets shared. I read all the messages, So if you follow Mana Contemporary, you'll see all the things that we're doing to champion for our artists and other artists, even when they go on to greater, bigger things. And a lot of them do, whether it is that they've had a studio here, or they've been a part of the Monira Foundation that is owned by our same owner of Mana Contemporary. That's our nonprofit. They are in a residency program. They go on, and some of the future art leaders have been paired up with those residents as well. Like, we want to make sure we're supporting our artists on every level, so you can see the types of things that we're doing, that even, I'm a part of, to try to get the word out of, you want to see art every day.
Thank you so much. And I would also definitely recommend following the Instagram, because as you were talking about like the activities of the screen printing and then all the different things that the teen docents were doing in the last semester, I like remembered because I kept seeing like all of them on Instagram, like in the posts. So it was like you can connect it. So definitely like the Instagram has like all of those things on it.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And please come to Mana Contemporary. We have our spring and our fall open studios, and that's where you're going to experience all the things that we experience every day. So whether it's touring the exhibitions or meeting the artists, we always have about 100 artists opening up their doors, and they are so excited to talk to people, to show their process, to see their art. They even sell art. It's really, they're overjoyed, and they love engaging with students because, again, they're trying to give back. They're trying to give back.
Yeah, and the open studios is so amazing. Like the last time that I was, I think, volunteering there, it was like a really great energy of like artists and students and just everyone who is coming through.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I produce those things, so I really appreciate getting the feedback.
Of course. All right. So thank you so much, Kristin, for being a part of this podcast. Your input on the importance of art programs, educators, and the impact of the Future Art Leaders program has been so valuable. and we hope that it has inspired some of our listeners to pursue the world of fine arts.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been such a great joy, and I appreciate you. I appreciate this podcast. Again, if anyone wants to reach out to me, I'm more than welcome to have that. And I thank you very, very much.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for joining us on Art Isn't a Limit, where youth voices lead the conversation about the transformative power of arts education. If you'd like to learn more about ArtsEd NJ's Youth Arts Ed Council, visit our website at artsednj.org.